Benjamin Graham was a scholar and financial analyst who mentored legendary investors such as Warren Buffett, Irving Kahn, and Walter Schloss. Warren Buffett describes Graham's book, The Intelligent Investor, as by far the best book about investing ever written. In this tutorial, we'll look at how Graham's investment framework can be applied as faithfully as possible to today's stock markets. The first numbers to look at when evaluating a stock are its earnings per share and book value per share. Earnings per share tells us how much profit the company makes per share. Book value per share is the theoretical liquidation value of the stock. If the company were to close tomorrow, BVPS tells us how much we would be paid per share. Graham recommended 3 different categories of stocks. Just as with anything else, higher quality stocks are costlier, i.e., we pay more for them per dollar of EPS and BVPS. The safest but costliest category of stocks Graham recommended was for defensive investors. The criteria that Graham specified for identifying such stocks are shown here. Graham's recommended price for defensive quality stocks can be calculated from criteria number 6 and number 7. This price is popularly known as the Graham number. Graham recommended a minimum portfolio size of 10 for defensive quality stocks, or in other words, not more than 10% of one's portfolio per defensive quality stock. For enterprising investors who are looking for greater profits and are willing to put more effort into their portfolios, Graham then recommended the following criteria. The price limit for such a stock is thus the lower of 120% net tangible assets, or 10 times current earnings. We can combine the two, as Graham did for defensive quality stocks. We'll call this the Serenity number. Net current asset value stocks are also known as net nets, or cigar butt stocks today. Graham did recommend these stocks for enterprising investors, but with additional qualitative checks and diversification requirements. Since NCAV stocks undergo the least qualitative tests of all of Graham's categories, they also require the most diversification. Graham recommended a portfolio size of 30 for NCAV stocks, or in other words, not more than 3.3% of one's portfolio per NCAV stock. Today's data mining software makes it relatively easy to find stocks that clear even such elaborate criteria. Serenity applies Graham's 17-point investment framework to 5,000 plus U.S. stocks. The classic Graham screener lists all stock meetings up to 90% of Graham's quantitative criteria. Shown here are a few such stocks that meet all of Graham's qualitative defensive criteria. Similar searches can also be done for Graham's enterprising and NCAV criteria. We can thus build a 90% compliant Graham stock portfolio today using the classic Graham screener alone. The classic Graham screener can also be used to screen stocks by their Graham numbers. GN divided by PC is short for Graham number divided by previous close. For example, shown here are a few stocks selling at a fifth of their Graham numbers, or less. Note that the sliders on their numerical filters can be adjusted with the mouse, or with the keyboard arrow keys. Filter values can also be typed in. Let's now take a look at Serenity's Advanced Graham Screener. The Advanced Graham Screener allows us to A. Fine-tune Graham's rules with more customizable filter combinations. B. View and compare more data per stock and more stocks per page. C. View stocks with quantitative results up to 100% and stocks analyzed by other users. For example, shown here are a few stocks that completely meet Graham's NCAV criteria and also have $250 million in sales and 5 years of uninterrupted positive earnings. The criteria for enterprising qualitative stocks can be approximately replicated on the Advanced Graham Screener using the values CA divided by 2CL 75%, NCA divided by LTD 90%, earnings stability 50%, dividend record 5%, and GN divided by PC 137%. Shown here are stocks that completely meet Graham's NCAV criteria and clear the previously mentioned criteria for enterprising investors as well. Note, the GN divided by PC shows 135 instead of 137 because the slider for that particular filter moves in steps of 5. The Advanced Graham Screener can thus be used to select stocks of both higher and lower compliance with Graham's specifications. The Advanced Graham Screener also has an additional equity divided by debt filter. This filter, when used instead of CA divided by 2CL and NCA divided by LTD, will allow for the screening of public utilities and financial enterprises. Here's a sample screening where the equity divided by debt filter is used in combination with the other Graham criteria. Lastly, the Advanced Graham Screener can also be used to compare all Graham ratings and other data for any set of stocks of your choice as seen here. To understand how a full Graham analysis works, let's take the examples of Universal Corporation. In the Financial Condition tab of UVV, we see the sales and balance sheet figures that were used in the Graham analysis. This data is used to calculate Graham's ratings such as CA divided by 2CL, NCA divided by LTD, etc., and the NCAV price. Every stock on Serenity has both the BVPS and tangible BVPS displayed on it, along with its earnings history in the Per Share Values tab as can be seen here. Combining all this data with UVV's dividend history, we get the following defensive Graham ratings for UVV. The Defensive Graham Ratings tab gives a good overall picture of a stock's margin of safety. Lastly, we see the Final Graham Assessment tab for UVV, which gives a summary of the Graham analysis. We see that UVV has different defensive, enterprising, and NCAV prices. We also see that the qualitative results for UVV is defensive, and thus, the defensive price, or the Graham number, is also its intrinsic value. Finally, we see that UVV has a quantitative result of 100% since its intrinsic value is more than its previous closing price. This concludes the tutorial. For a description of terms used on Serenity, please see the quick reference. If you have any questions, please post them on www.serenitystocks.com/forum. Thank you.